computer.
Hi, so back in the shed, another Tales from the Shed, and today we're actually going
We've
to
got the
talk.
cat,
We
so
have a cat,
apologies
so
for the
at some
cat.
point there may be movement.
There might be
Don't worry
movement of
about it.
ears, but it's
Cat is fine. So today we were just talking before about this concept of forgiveness, and I think it was interesting because you were telling me about how you thought you'd done a lot of work, done a lot of kind of processes, you've done all these different things, and you thought you'd got to a place
of forgiveness. And I've been working for 20 years in this field with and things like that, and I really worked through, and I was having a bit of a struggle in my life, thinking I've got to put up with this and put up with that. And then I suddenly realized that I had been holding things for many, many years. And I really thought I had let them go and let them go. And and I really had let them go about 95%. So I'd done lots, but it was the last. And like a lot of things, if you've ever dug a tree out the ground, it's the last big taproot that you've got rid of 95% of them. But it's that big one. And it was like holding so much. And it was like, I'm just going to do a bit of a rewind on this and go back to before that event happened.
Right.
And I sort of viewed this person from before that event happened. And every time I saw them, I sort of painted that bit. And I suddenly realized how much I was holding about that, which I didn't want to hold, by the way. It wasn't stuff that was very, very important. And there are things that you think, these are my values. This is against my value. This is against my judgment. So it wasn't that. It was just events that you think they really are gone. They really are moved away from. They're really unimportant. But I was holding the energy of unimportant events, if that makes sense.
Yes. I mean, I think it's interesting, that whole thing about how you think you've let go of stuff.
Yeah.
And you wish you had let go of it. You really had. And you're like saying to the universe, I've learned my lesson, it's fine. I don't have to have this lesson again. And then it bloody comes back,
And if it comes with a lot of emotion, then there's probably some sense of resentment, anger, jealousy, heat. That's the word. Whatever the emotion is, but it's creating heat. And there's a book I read a long time ago called The Choice, written by somebody called Edith Eger, we think Eger. And she was in a concentration camp for some years, and the story is hers to tell. But she did survive the concentration camp, and the most difficult, however incredibly awful that was, the coming back into life was more shocking and more awful.
Yeah,
because she had to deal with all of these different emotions, different feelings, different. It's not fair. Lots. Of course, it's not fair, but there was all this stuff that was on, and she became a therapist, and over the next 50 years, layer upon layer, did a load of forgiving and thought, I am there now.
Yeah,
I am there.
Fine, sorted.
She moved to America. She became this. She got married. She did, and I am there. And 10 years later, she realized she wasn't there. And there was more and more and more to let go of, until she finally was nearly 80, I believe, or 75, 80, before she said, I really think now I truly have got to the end of this journey. And whilst I've read other books that are amazing, like A Will to Meaning and things like that, where the guy just did come out and just forgave.
Yeah.
But this woman really had this struggle of, I've forgiven everyone, I've left them off the hook, but was still in very self-destructive mode, that she was very depressed, she was very down, she was very victim. And she said, I need to let that go because I'm creating that space. And yet she really had gone through things, this bad stuff she'd gone through. I mean, we're surrounded by war, which is tragic. I know. There is no getting to the other side of this. You can kill all the baddies, whoever they are, whichever side that is. And it still doesn't solve it. It's kind of comes back onto this forgiveness level.
I know. It reminds me of some work I was doing with Rachel Kennard Wall, who's the psych kinesiologist person that we've had, who's been a guest in the shed. And some of it kind of came up a relationship I had when I was back at university.
Wow.
Right. Okay. This is like,
over
I mean,
20 years ago.
40 years ago. So, and it was interesting because it somehow, that was the thing that came to mind when we were talking about this particular process. And this person basically did me over. He did me over. And it was interesting because it was almost like that came back in terms of heartbreak and betrayal and all of those things. And I would say, you know, in the 40 years since, I've had a few examples of those things, and it was interesting to see how that was still there. And the kind of insight was, so that set the pattern. So that set the pattern for later relationships, because this happened here. So you didn't feel good enough. You felt, you know, second best. You felt done over. You felt betrayed. All of those different kind of things happened. And I'd kind of made it all right. And I've had successful and unsuccessful marriages since, and all of those kind of different things are kind of going on. But it was almost like, yes, it went back to here.
Yeah.
Because you never really let go of that bit.
Yes.
And that was a bit of me about myself, in a sense. So you could say, did I have to forgive him? And in a sense, I didn't think it was necessary to forgive him. I kind of almost think I had to forgive myself.
Yourself. Yeah.
So that was quite important. And I just remember after that, the sense of lightness was incredible. And it was something like, my God, I've been carrying this weight somewhere on my body for the past 40 years. How incredible is that?
We have talked about being a victim, and we are a victim to those memories where we felt we were a victim at the time.
It wasn't even in my list of things, you know, when you really want to make yourself feel miserable, normally at 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, when your brain kind of starts to come up with all those things that you can feel really miserable about that you can't do anything about. It kind of wasn't even in my conscious list of that.
No, but it still, it sets the pattern of, I'm a victim, or me, I didn't do anything to make this happen. It happened to me. There's your victim. It happened to me. And it's
and I should have known better. I think that was the other thing that went along with it. Why did I let myself? Because this was a situation which
it's massive.
I should have said. I mean, he you know, he basically treated me like shit for quite a while before the relationship ended, and it was that kind of thing of, why did you put up with that? Well, so I was giving myself a hard time about why did I put up with it. So I was looking at me rather than, he was being a dick, fine, but I blamed myself for putting up with that particular variety of dickness, you know.
When I do talk to abused women, and I do, one of the things they say is, I feel really bad that I allowed that I allowed that to happen, that I didn't stand up. I feel guilt that I did. And it's interesting because we have a great remedy in the homeopathic world as practitioners that we give to people. Until recently, it's a remedy about unforgiven. So people that can hold a grudge for England, people that they are the biggest, they're everything, nothing will let them let go of this. So if you are an unforgiving, never let anything go, always that, and we've given it, so we don't give it that often because we don't see that many really truly nasty people. And I was just talking to this client and I went, you cannot forgive yourself. And she went, I cannot forgive myself. And I gave her this remedy, even though she was lovely. And I gave it because I thought, well, the keynote is unforgiving. And I gave it to her, and I saw her a month later. She went, oh, I've got over all that. I'd never seen anything. So I told my client, my colleague about this, who also deals with people in abuse. And she went, wow, I had never looked at it in that way. And she started giving it. And again, we saw complete changes. So I think the resistance to forgive yourself is one of the most powerful and destructive things there is.
But how did you kind of come to grips with it? Because you actually found, when you actually had that insight about, I thought I'd forgiven, but I haven't, and there's another 5% that I've got to give back. You said there was quite a powerful process.
It was a huge process. I did this big meditation process that I actually viewed the person before the event. And I looked at them as I realized I'd looked at them as spoiled.
Okay.
I'd looked at them as, now you've done that, you are poisoned. Now you've done that, you can never be the
Good
person
enough
that
or
you
whatever,
were, or
yeah.
good enough. And actually, it wasn't about that. They had grown, I get that.
Yeah.
And they were not really overtly bad. It was me. I had poisoned them, and I'd poisoned myself.
Yeah.
And I was looking through a veil of poison that I put up. You are poisoned, and injecting them. So by looking at them through that,
yeah,
suddenly all of this energy began to flow that was pre-poison, because the poison, we've taken that bit out,
yeah,
by forgiving it, and just had that relationship. So I kind of did it through meditation.
Yeah.
But we now meet as the people without the poison.
Oh, nice.
Which if you met that guy again, you would, just because of 40 years.
Yes.
You'd probably meet, I say to people, you know, when you had that love affair when you were 14 and they broke your heart and you were never going to be able to go out again, and that was the end of your life. And then you're 30 and you've got 2 kids and you bump into each other in Sainsbury's and you go, oh, you think it's kind of like there's nothing, there's no heat there.
Yeah.
There's no energy. You'd almost think, oh, I'm not even going to mention that, because it's not. So that's what I mean by you meet people without the poison. Yeah. Because you have both forgiven that act. So we're not talking about 2 acts of evil. That's not it. Even then, but then that's another story, because that still has to be forgiven in some way. But it's just that meet someone without the poison, without your poison on the situation, without them being coloured by the situation, and see what energy you've got in that situation. But also, I think for me the important thing was just to have that realization that actually I did what I did at the time. And I quite like it as a phrase I heard once, and it said, human beings we do the best we can at any moment with the information that's available to us. Well, I'd like to think we do, but I don't think we are. I mean, I think I'm sorry. I have judgments about people where I think no, I'm not getting information. No, that's right. But it is that kind of thing. But I think I don't have to worry about that in a sense. I think, right, okay, so I did the best that I could at the time with the information that was available to me at that time. Yes. So if I was now, of course, I wouldn't go back to when I was, what was I, 19, 20, 21, when you're just a baby, really. Because I don't know what I know now. Then. So I did the best that I could with the information I had to me at the time, I was, and I just think, okay, you did the best I would say, exactly that you look at something, and if it's feeling heat, have a look at where you go to. I think so. Always look at what isn't forgiven. Wow, that's quite an interesting thing. And you know what? We are coming up to Christmas, which is a great time to look at what you haven't forgiven. It's a good time. Yes. Whoa. There always has that thing over the Christmas dinner. There's always stuff over the Christmas dinner. It's a bit like an episode of EastEnders, isn't it? And you just kind of think, wow, how much longer are we going to just carry this on? But just look at what isn't unforgiven, because all you can do is forgive yourself. Because once you do it for yourself, once you've forgiven yourself, and it just takes that whole thing, and you can see people for the energy they are. Yeah, which is still might not be good. Oh, but no, but it's clear. It's not coloured by what you've got. So try doing that. Have a practice with forgiving before Christmas.